Everybody's here, I think. And okay. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Tuesday, September 1st meeting. My goodness, and I would like to call this meeting to order. I certainly cannot believe that it's September 1st. Where did the summer go, and let alone where did the last 6 months go? Probably like me, you're all eking out the last minutes of summer and everything that it has to offer before the routine of September kicks in. But of course, what will that routine look like? On the surface, things are the same. Last minute barbecues and activities and adventures with families and back to school shopping with the additional items of sanitizer and masks. We have been so fortunate the last few months to be able to be social and safe in the outdoors. But what does that mean for the fall coming up? For our social mental health, we certainly want to make sure that the activities that we've been able to participate in during the summer can continue. I participated in a briefing with the Middlesex London Health Unit yesterday, and Dr. Alex Summers said, which I thought was, I said, I'm going to steal this. It's important to remember that we cannot replace backyard barbecues with dining room dinners. And I thought that that was good advice to be handing out, because as we get back into the routines of September, we cannot become complacent. We must continue to limit those in our close bubble. We must be physically distant. We must wash our hands, and we must continue to mask up. We must continue to look out for our neighbors. I have recently been reminded of how stressful the last few months have been for a number of our residents. As the days get longer, be mindful of your mental health and know that there is lots of support out there. Be physically distant, but not socially alone. We will continue to get through this as we've done so well up until now. Who knows what autumn 2020 will bring for us, but as a strong community of Leukemidal, I know that we'll watch out for each other and we will get through this. At this time, I would like to ask, is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Okay, seeing none, we do have a delegation with us, and I'm pleased to welcome our lawyer, Dave Woodward from Learners. It's great to have you with us here this evening, Dave. It's great to see you. And he's going to speak to us about some changes that have been made or are being proposed to be made to our procedural bylaw. And at this time, I don't know, Ron, if you want to give a little bit of background and then we'll throw it over to Dave. Maybe that would be a good way to go.
Actually, I'm going to get the deputy clerk, Tina Murner, to speak about it. She actually did most of the work on this, so I'm not going to steal her thunder. Thank you very much, Tina and Dave, for doing a lot of the legwork on this one. Just to frame it up, we do have some options available to council to continue with electronic meetings, and that's really what this amendment will do. So with that, I'll pass it over to Tina.
Just 1 minute. It's just had the report up and now it's gone. Let's see here. I've got too many screens going on. There you are. So as you guys are aware, the bylaw amendments being brought forward are to allow to continue the permittance of electronic meetings, even when we're not in a declared emergency. We did consult with Dave Woodward because there was a little more that we thought should be added regarding proxy voting, the options for that, and planning meetings as well, just to kind of define the procedure and process for all of that in our procedural bylaw. So I'm gonna actually just hand it right over to Dave because he knows a little bit more about it than I can explain. So Dave, if you want to go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, Your Worship and members of council. And thank you very much, Tina, for your good work, and Ron for your good work on this. I thought it would be probably easiest if I was to just provide the background of how we got here, because then it provides you with sort of a clear context in which you can make your choices for three things really: electronic council meetings, electronic planning act, public planning act meetings, and also proxy voting, which was brought in with the most recent legislation that allowed these electronic meetings in situations where there was no emergency. So if we go back to March, early March, I'll say, because of course the legislative changes really started in March. In early March, of course, in-person meetings were required, and electronic meetings were not permitted. And we were, of course, authorized as a council, which the township had done, to pass a procedural bylaw that covered the calling of meetings, how those meetings were to be conducted. And that was in place for a long time, of course, with the township. With, of course, the state of emergency that was declared by the province, not only did the province declare a state of emergency, but the township did as well as the county of Middlesex. And as part of that declaration was under the EMCPA, and also in conjunction with that, they also passed some legislation that effectively was called the Municipal Emergency Act, and that authorized us to go ahead and do these electronic meetings during an emergency. That's the key word, during an emergency. So, we've been proceeding on with that authorization. As you know, the province, I know the township still has the state of emergency in place, but the province, what they did in late July, they withdrew the state of emergency. But what they did is they also passed concurrently the COVID-19 Recovery Act. And that act, what it did is it provided, it amended a number of pieces of legislation, including the Municipal Act. And it allowed us, being Ontario municipalities, to go ahead and have electronic meetings, both under the Planning Act, for municipal council meetings, and also introduce some rules on proxy voting that were not available to us except in the case of an emergency. So what this bylaw intends to do is it intends to enable, well, I'll use the word, it provides a toolkit for council. The toolkit will enable you to have electronic council meetings, even when there's no emergency. It will allow you to have electronic public planning act, excuse me, planning act meetings, and also proxy voting will be part of this as well. Now, you're authorized to do this, but you're not required to do it. So every Ontario municipality has the ability to say, okay, I have the ability to do any of these three things in my procedural bylaw. But if you choose not to exercise that option, you don't have to. So it's not mandatory. It's something that provides you with something in your toolkit. But I'd also point out that if it's in your toolkit, you don't necessarily have to use it. If we get, when we get past this, let's be positive, and we should be, because we will. But when we get past this, we can go back to having council meetings with the public personally, and continue to do that and only use this electronic meeting option when it's necessary. That doesn't mean it will only be during an emergency, but it will be something in our toolkit that we can use. So, you know, I guess we got three wide, I'll use the word three general options. The electronic council meetings, the Electronic Planning Act public meetings, and the proxy voting. And it's up to all Ontario municipalities to select which ones they would prefer to use. Now, my own view, just because you have the option doesn't mean you have to use it. And it's important, particularly in times like these, when there are a lot of legislative changes and changes going on, brought on by the pandemic. But I think we all know that the pandemic has changed business and changed the way all organizations work. I think it's fair to say that this is a situation where it's nice to have that flexibility. So my recommendation would be to have all those options in your toolkit and use them at your discretion. And, you know, acknowledging that in certain circumstances, when we get past this, it may not be the best idea to use electronic meeting for certain things, but at least we have the ability to do it if it is needed. So that sort of gives council the background and the rationale of the document. I don't think I don't want to go through a line by line thing of the document because it's far too dull. But nonetheless, the bylaw itself is broken down into those three areas: electronic council meetings, and then on a schedule, you'll have electronic meeting protocols. So those protocols provide a little bit of, for lack of a better word, meat on the bones in terms of how those meetings are to be conducted. And the council of the day can change those protocols as they wish, subject to the rules in the Planning Act that limit those items. Same thing for Electronic Planning Act public meetings. There's the power that is undertaken, or there's a discretion, a decision made to do that in the bylaw should council at its pleasure decide to pass it. And then there's Electronic Planning Act meeting protocols. And that provides council with good guidance on to how these meetings are conducted, and provides the public with full information and transparency on how these meetings are to be conducted. And then there's one schedule of the bylaw which just has a consolidation of the procedural bylaw as it is now. Now, the other item, they've included the province in this, in the COVID Recovery Act, they included proxy voting. And there's no schedule protocol for that. That's totally rules-based. And in the bylaw, that section of the bylaw is driven by the rules in the legislation. And there's very little flexibility we have there. On the electronic meeting protocols for council and for the Planning Act, provided we comply with the act, we have a bit of discretion, but certainly on the proxies, the rules are fairly strict, and the sections reflect, in the bylaw, reflect the rules in the legislation. So I'll just stop there for now and let Your Worship take the floor from there.
Okay, thank you very much for that overview, David. At this time, are there any questions from members of council with regards to what's been presented and what you've been able to read since getting the agenda? Peter, Councillor Masterakis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. David, it might be in the proxy voting detail, but my thought was if I gave Deputy Manders my proxy, and then somebody else at the last minute decides they're not going to be at the meeting and gives Dave their proxy, now he can pass a motion on his own. So is this in the documents of how to manage that process if we do go proxy? If I'm clear on on the question.
Okay. With 3 votes, someone who has the proxy will have the power. Oh, sorry, I am on. Yeah, sorry, I'm not muted. Okay. With 3 votes, that person will have the power of 3 voters. Now, I'd have to just refresh my memory on the bylaw if there's anything that limits that, but I don't think so. I think whatever rights come with those proxies vest in that proxy holder. So
if I can just interrupt, when I've just got it up in front of me, rules for appointing proxy, and there is one that says a member shall not act as a proxy for more than one member of council at any one time.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Kathy. I just didn't have it in front of me.
No worries. No worries.
Thank you very much.
Did you have anything else, Councillor Masterakis? Okay. Any other questions? Councillor Regan.
No, sorry. I was just going to say what you just said, that I just found that in rules for appointing proxy. Okay. So I was just going to mention that as well. So.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, actually, I have a few, David, just on, I just want to clarify, make sure that in this bylaw, the way it's been written is that the chair can chair the meeting from any place in the municipality. So I guess, so that would be me. I don't necessarily in an electronic meeting have to come to the municipal office. I could do it from home. So in the case of there's a snowstorm, it would be, there'd be no issue with me chairing the meeting from home.
That's correct, yes. Yeah.
Okay, good. And then I also saw when it comes to voting that with an electronic meeting, all votes are to be recorded and that the clerk is to call the name of each member. Is that, was that direction given from the province in the way that they suggested that electronic meetings be held?
No. If people, I believe you have some discretion there in terms of if you have another method.
Okay.
In terms of voting.
Ron, yeah.
If I may, Madam Mayor, Dave, Mr. Woodward, if you could sort of clarify. It says on the last line there, it says unless council decides otherwise. So if we would continue to do it in the way we have been doing it, the mayor calls the vote, and because it's being recorded live, there's actually a record of it. So it's not as if, I don't know necessarily that we need it worded that way. Would it be possible, or would it be advisable to change it to the way we currently do it?
Yeah, I mean, we can, if current practice is different, we can make that change. Yeah. Okay. Is that, okay.
Yeah, it actually says all votes shall be by recorded vote conducted by the clerk, and I'd like to actually insert and or the deputy clerk, as directed by the chair, unless council decides otherwise.
Yeah.
So okay. I think maybe if we change that around to say the chair calls the vote, unless, and I guess that brings up another question. Do we need another section to deal with an official recorded vote? Or is it even necessary, I guess is the question, because like I said, it is recorded live. Yeah, it's recorded live, so there's no question.
Yeah. I don't think we need to. We can just modify that to current practice. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right. And then the last one, and I don't know whether I didn't see it anywhere else, but again, it's in the electronic meeting portion, so Schedule B, and it has to do with just the publishing of the minutes. And I think that's already being done. As soon as the minutes are done, then they're posted on our website in draft form. Does that, again, should that be spelled out for electronic meeting minutes if that's something that we're already doing?
There's nothing preventing you from doing so, so we could do it if you wish. There's nothing requiring it either.
Okay.
So, but we can, so the publishing of electronic minutes, we can put that in there as well.
Ron, did you have a comment on that?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to say maybe all we need to do is insert one word under the confirming bylaw. The second point there, it says the clerk in an expeditious manner following the electronic meeting shall post the minutes. Maybe if we just said shall post the unapproved or the draft minutes, that would maybe clarify that a little better. Would that be okay, Madam Mayor?
Yeah, that's
Okay. So it's just a matter of inserting that one word.
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor.
Madam Mayor, you had, maybe it was just your wording, you had mentioned there that you could chair the meeting also within the municipality at your house, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you use within the municipality, you could chair it, couldn't you, anywhere? Like you could be in London?
Yeah, like, or it says within the municipality or a neighboring municipality. I'm gonna have to pull that up.
There's, go ahead, Councillor Manders, sorry.
I was just thinking whether you were in Toronto, your house, or there, would it matter? That's all. like, or is there a limitation to the distance from our municipality? You just caught me off guard with your wording. That's all. All right.
There's through you, your worship, the section 36 of the Municipal Act does indicate that council meetings are to be held within a municipality or in an adjacent municipality. And I don't think that's been amended. I think in the emergency, when there was an emergency, there was flexibility there, but I don't think that's section. So I'll take a look at that to see if we can get even more flexibility. But I think we're probably limited by that section in terms of location of meeting. And I realize it's a bit of an anachronism because, you know, we're dealing with electronic meetings here, and it shouldn't really matter in terms of the effectiveness of our meeting if people are, or if the chair is in the municipality or in Toronto. But nonetheless, we'll have to just be careful about that. Okay.
Just want to make sure when she asked me to cover her, she's correct. That's all. Okay. Very good.
I knew that question was likely more personal than procedural.
Okay. No, very good.
Okay, any other questions or comments on what's been presented?
I do have a question,
Yep.
Kathy. Sorry, through you, Madam Mayor. Just back to the minutes, when it says in there that the clerk shall post the minutes in an expeditious manner, are you meaning that they're supposed to be posted before the next council meeting? Because right now they're not.
I thought they were. I thought they were posted on the website. I thought
they are posted on the website once they're approved, but we don't post them in draft form. We include them in the agenda as draft form.
Yeah.
But not before the agenda is posted.
Okay. All right. Maybe that's it. I know that was an issue. Maybe the first term of council, maybe the deputy mayor will remember that we wanted to make sure that the minutes were posted in draft form, but maybe they weren't. I don't know. I can't remember that was legal, but I know that was a discussion that happened during my first term of council, maybe.
Okay, well, maybe Ron and I'll just clarify that process then. Okay.
If I may, through you, Madam Mayor, I think in the non-recorded era, that was probably more of an issue. Now they can go back at any point in time and pull up the council meeting and actually watch the council meeting live. So
Mhm.
there's probably less of a demand for that kind of thing when they can actually watch the meeting live. So,
Mhm.
okay. Thank you.
All right, if there aren't any other questions, I think maybe David's got some direction to go back and clean up some wording in a couple of areas. And I think that's probably all you might need from us at this point.
Yes, I just want to be, I assume from our discussion that council wishes to have all three areas covered in this bylaw, meaning the Public Planning Act, or the Electronic Planning Act meeting and the proxy. Is that correct?
I mean, there hasn't been a lot of questions about proxy, so I'm assuming that council's okay with that. I would think that that's probably the more, I don't know, not contentious, but that's the more interesting update that we would be making to the bylaw, since we've been continuing we've been proceeding with electronic meetings since March. So I think everybody's comfortable with that, but is council, are you comfortable with moving ahead with the ability to have a proxy vote? Guess I'm seeing nods of the head, so yeah, it looks like they are. So
Okay, great.
okay. All right, so I guess with that, we'll look forward to the updated bylaw when you get that done, and then we can pass that accordingly at that time. Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us, David. And as you said, thanks to Ron and Gina for all the work that they've done to support getting us to this point. So it's good.
Thanks very much, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night. Thank you. Okay, moving on in the meeting. You've got the minutes from August 11th in front of you. And if there wasn't anything that needed to be changed, could I get a mover and a seconder to approve them as circulated? Councillor Westman and Councillor Regan. And all opposed? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Okay, business arising from the minutes. I think all of them are ongoing, and we'll look forward to reports in the fall, and we will look to talk about the feral cats at this time. And so we have with us our Chief Building Official and Bylaw Officer, Arnie Marsman, with us. Thank you very much for joining us, Arnie. And I guess back to, I don't know who wants to, if anybody wants to run with it first, Gina, if you wanted to, and then we'll hand it over to Arnie for questions.
Sure. So yeah, we'll just do a little bit of refresher since this has kind of been on hold for a little bit. So as council will recall, in summer of 2019, concerns were brought forward from residents regarding feral cats in Lucan. There was a number of reports and options presented to council for consideration in regards to our animal control, which would include cats. In October, staff was directed to hire animal care on an as needed basis to deal with feral cat issues as they arise, and to further amend our animal control bylaw to include cats and a limit of cats and dogs combined per household. So amendments were made in draft form, the most significant change being the inclusion of cats, obviously. Some other changes were made to the preamble of the bylaw just regarding updated legislation. Draft amendments were made and forwarded to building bylaw enforcement for comment. And at that time, I believe Middlesex Center was reviewing their animal control bylaw as well. And it was decided to hold off on bringing the bylaw forward until Middlesex Center staff had made some further progress or had further input regarding it. In that report, you'll also notice that we did include the cost spent on the feral cat issue in 2019, which was $2,100 $113.10. There was no cost incurred in 2020 to date for feral cats. So with that, I will turn it over to Arnie just so he can provide some comments and input regarding the enforcement aspects of the changes being made to our bylaw.
Sure. Through the mayor, further to Tina's comments there, what council has before them is outlines a few draft changes, generally to include the provisions relating to cats and the number of animals in a dwelling. I believe staff recommends limiting the number of animals in a dwelling to 5 in total, a maximum of which could be 3 as dogs, and the remainder could be cats, or there could be up to 5 cats with no dog. Also, the few of the revisions in the bylaw generally speak to adding cats, a definition of cats, and regulating cats from running at large, like a dog would run at large. So it would be contrary to the bylaw and an offense if somebody's cat did run off their property out of their control. So I'm open to any questions or some topics for discussion.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that, Arnie. So you've had the bylaw or the proposed changes to the bylaw, and I think it was presented very well, highlighted where the proposed changes are. Are there any questions from council at this time? Concerns about what's been presented? Councillor Westman.
All right, so yeah, I've been reading through some of the proposed amendments here, and I'm not certain. I suppose it's similar to how a dog would be treated as far as seizure and impounding. But my concern is I don't want our bylaw to create an environment where people are taking matters into their own hands or putting any of these animals at risk, because a cat by its nature will roam off the property and it doesn't pose any threat to public like a dog might be, because we have issues with dog bites and what have you. A cat is not going to chase a child down and bite them, and you know, I think we're trying to put them both in the same box here, and I'm not certain that's where I would take this in the direction that it's been written here. So that's my thought on it.
Okay. Any other comments, questions from council on Councillor Regan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do have a question for you. As when animals are impounded, what method do they use to try to notify the owners, or is it responsibility of the owner to contact animal control? I'm just wondering if the dog has a tag, does the owner know about it? Because I'm just reading the section here. I think it's 3 days, and they're going to put the animal down. And I'm just wondering if, like, what efforts are made to make sure that, to contact the owner. I know that question's going to come up. Like, I know I can just hear it right now. So yeah.
Is that, Mayor?
Yep, for sure, Arnie.
So through the mayor, we do have a dog registration program. So you do need to get a dog tag. And
right.
If the dog or cat is picked up, Animal Care Center Lobo will take the dog back to the pound and look up the dog tag and make efforts to contact the owner of the dog. If the dog's not, or the cat is not registered, so we do not have a registry that would include cats, we would retain the animal for up to 3 days before it can be potentially resold and adopted out. It's always been the priority of animal control to not put the cats or dogs down, but to readopt them.
Okay. Is it, Madam Mayor, could I just ask another question?
Absolutely.
So I know I'm just asking, but so if when an animal is captured, I guess they can't put in the pound, is there like, are they put like on a website, like here's your missing dog, and this is, these are the dogs or cats we picked up today? I mean, if people went to the site and said, oh yeah, that's my cat. I know it's not, almost like a mugshot of your dog or cat, just to, come and pick up your cat? Because people are, you see people put posters up. I'm just wondering, is that something that you do or we can do or should do, I guess?
Ron, did you want to answer that?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Regan. So typically what happens if we get a call about a dog, like Arnie said, we go out, we'll call Lobo Animal Care and Control. They'll come out and pick up the dog. If there's a tag on it, they will contact, or they will make best efforts to contact the owner. 3 days is a long time for you to miss your pet. So typically, once somebody realizes their pet is missing, they call the municipal office first, and we always direct them to Lobo Animal Care and Control. Because if any dog or pet is found in the township, it would go there. So that is the first call. So typically, within that 3-day period, you're going to know that your pet is not around, not coming back. You will make that call. The first call is typically to the municipal office. The second call then goes to Lobo Animal Care and Control, and typically it's a happy reunion and away they go. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Any other questions on this? Oh, yeah, Arnie, did you have a comment to make?
Yeah, just further to Ron's comments to Councillor Regan. That's a great question about the use of their Facebook page or their website. I have seen that done before by an animal control authority, putting a picture of the dog or a cat that's been picked up. So we can definitely look into that further and let you know.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay.
Lisa, did you have something?
No, I just hear Kathy. The animal does post I know their dogs and cats when found on their Facebook. I can't tell you if they do on their website, but I know they do on their Facebook page when they find something or it's been brought in. Mm-hmm.
If it's not traceable.
Yeah.
Perfect. I just had Councillor Masterakis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One question, Mr. Marsman. So have you seen this implemented somewhere else? So how does this, especially on the cat side, so the fur is going to fly for the first while. So what do you see happening and how does it work to give people some comfort around this bylaw that if their cat's gone, they can find it quickly? Can you give some examples or some background?
Sure, through the mayor. In Middlesex Center, traditionally we have picked up a cat that's been found to be stray or at large. Largely the concerns do come in the winter. If somebody finds a cat in the snowbank in the countryside somewhere, they're concerned about that cat, and we will pick it up. Just to start this year, Middlesex Center included a provision regarding cats at large so that we actually would have the authority to do that. We were acting in the best interest of the animal and picking up historically, but this year we've patched our bylaw to actually recognize cats that may not run at large so that we can't pick them up. It's gone fairly well. We really need that authority in the bylaw to pick up a stray cat. Otherwise, we could be accused of taking somebody's pet without authority. And honestly, there's been very little uptake this year. It's been a quiet year for cats, but people do want to know that there is somewhere to call if they do get a stray cat, that there is an authority there that can take care of it and pick it up, so that there's some peace of mind for that concerned resident, and it protects the cat.
Okay. Just on this section, before I ask my questions, did anybody else have anything at this point? Just on in the seizure and impounding section, I just want to make sure that whole section 6, it applies to both dogs and cats, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, maybe just in section A, well, I guess running at large is specifically for dogs, correct? Or does that?
Yeah, through the mayor, we really should add the word cat in there as well.
Okay, that's what I just wanted to confirm on that. And Okay, and then I guess, so with a dog, on section 6C, so it says any person claiming an unregistered dog has to pay the registration fee, but I guess there's no registration fee for cats or anything. We're not registering cats. So they would just be responsible for whatever fees Lobo incurs. And then there is a fine then that they would get, right? If somebody shows up and says, this is my cat, then they would have a fine for having a cat running at large. And then they would have to incur the fees from Lobo, correct?
That's correct. There is a potential fine. Section 6B does speak to the owner of a cat paying the impound fee.
Right.
They would also pay whatever fees would have been owing from the municipality to the animal control officer and making that run to pick up the cat. And laying of charges or fines is an option at the discretion of the officer if they would lay that charge or not.
Okay. Perfect. And then I guess just to bounce off what Councillor Westman said earlier, and you kind of, I think that you've said that the changes that have been made in Middlesex Centre have been, I guess, maybe successful to this point, that there hasn't been a lot of backlash and all of that. But to his concerns, are we seeing like needless calls coming in for a cat walking across the front lawn, that sort of thing?
So through the mayor, we do get complaints of cats at large using other people's gardens for their washroom and other things, maybe killing birds. Sorry, I strayed from your question.
No, I'm just wondering, because Councillor Westman, I think, was concerned that now by including cats at large, like we do with dogs, and cats not maybe having the same sort of threat to community that dogs do, that people might be calling more often or taking matters into their own hands, saying this is a stray cat, when in fact it's not.
Yeah, so it's a good question. Some people do recognize their neighbor's cat, and generally we would not go out, or Animal Care Center Lobo would not go out unless the cat is confined. Similar to dogs, if a dog is wandering through a neighborhood, generally it's in our agreement that they would come to pick up a dog that's confined, maybe closed in a yard or tied to a leash, unless there's a concern about safety and if that's an angry or vicious dog. With regards to cats, it would be similar. That cat really would have to be in a box for Animal Care Center Lobo to come pick up. If they do find that we know who the owner of that cat is, we can knock on the door, give them a call, let them know we've had a complaint of their cats at large, and if we get continual non-compliance and the cats keep going across to their neighbor's yard, using the washroom or doing other things, we could proceed with a fine for that cat being at large based on the testimony of a neighbor. Quite often though, generally we try to avoid that as best we can with education and speaking to people first. But if there's no resolution to that and they can't keep their cat in their yard, then this would be the next step.
And and Tina talked about how, last year we implemented the crates or the cages that we were using for feral cat containment. So that could be offered up if somebody called and said, there's this cat out there, could say, well, get the, if you have no way of containing it, put it out, and maybe then it could be contained that way. That would be an option to them, right?
Potentially, yes. There are costs to that as well. So Animal Care Center Lobo would have to go out with the cage, pick up the cat. So there is a slight fee to that as well, but that is an option to catch them.
Okay. All right. Okay. Any other comments? I think at this time, obviously, we're not going to be passing this tonight, but any changes or further amendments that you want, now's the time to have that discussion, to bring it up with concerns the way that this draft is being written. Otherwise, I would assume that it will be coming back at a future council meeting for our approval. So now would be the time to get your thoughts in as to how you want to see any changes that you're not comfortable with. Ron.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So on a go-forward basis, what we're proposing as staff is to bring forward the final draft at the next council meeting. And then it needs to basically get a rubber stamp from council, I guess you could say, as to the wording, not pass it because it needs to go to the Ministry of the Attorney General for approval for the short form wording for the tickets. So once we get approval from the ministry as to the actual wording on the ticket, then it will come back to council for passage. Okay.
Yep. All right, final call for any comments, anything you like to see changed in what's been presented to you. Okay, seeing none, then I guess that's it for you right now. And just, I guess, to make sure that we've got where there needs to be cat to be included in that. Great. Okay, thanks for joining us, Arnie. And I guess we'll see you at a future council meeting.
We'll see you all soon.
Okay, thanks. Have a good night. Okay, moving on to correspondence. As always, there's a number there. There's only been one that has been pulled by staff, and it has to do with a Restart funding program, and how phase one, that the Township of Leukemidal will receive a payment of $123,600. And Ron, I don't know whether you wanted to speak to this one. I believe that this one is just a check, and future ones you have to submit expenses.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, but I don't want to steal the treasurer's thunder. So this is a good news item, so I'll let her give the good news here. So.
We already heard the good news. We are getting the funding, and it's in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, and of course all the extra costs and pressures that any municipalities would be under because of the pandemic. So we're all getting, every municipality is getting at least something, and if we don't use it all this year, we can save it for next year as this continues, and purchase what we need to deal with this and continue to provide services. So in a future council meeting, hopefully the next one, I'll have more of an update of where we are financially. But I know our direct costs for COVID-19 are stand at around $15,000 at this point. And that's just direct costs for PPE and signage and those kinds of things. So, but of course, there's lots of other issues with COVID, but I will update that in a future meeting. But as far as the other next phase of funding, there will be more stipulations, and you can see that in the letter. We don't have any details of what can be included or not, but it'd be a more rigid process to get approval for the phase 2 type funding, or whatever they call that. Yeah. Phase 2. So I don't know if we'll need that at this point, but we'll look into it.
I guess what we'll be telling is when you've compiled up all those invoices that we've received that have been tagged COVID, to see exactly how much we can put against that 123,000, and that will give us an idea of how much this is actually costing us.
Yeah, right now we're about 15, but there could be other things that we can use that funding for now that we have it, that would make sense to be in place for a pandemic continues, like other tools and for more cleaning supplies, that kind of thing. So.
Okay, any questions on that good news story? Thank you to the province for that. I know that a number of municipalities are very thankful. We're very thankful for that letter. Is there any other communications that we received since our last meeting that anybody on council wanted to speak to? Okay, moving on to committee reports. CEDC.
Yeah, no update, Kathy, since the last meeting.
Is there a meeting coming up though?
We have not scheduled one. We're going to look to do one in September.
Okay, I thought I saw something about that. Okay. I didn't want to miss that. Okay, blue water recycling.
Not much to update, just they are looking at labor is an issue there, getting people to stick around, and any long-term employees where there really isn't any in the sorting area, and they're going to be, I believe, going to be trialing and using robotic arms for doing the sorting and doing it in the format rather than purchasing lease, and leasing it will pretty much keep the cost the same as labor. So it's something they're going to look at and try, it looks like. So it's an interesting project, but that's about all that was new. So.
Lake Huron, we won't have a meeting until October. Fire boards, I don't believe that there was anything. ABCA and Upper Thames, Alex.
Yeah, so we had Upper Thames meeting last week, and there are some things that all municipalities and agencies are dealing with through COVID, obviously. In our case, we didn't hire as many people for certain jobs over the summer. But at the 3 parks, there's additional expenses, obviously, to maintain public safety. We did have a lot of discussion over a matter that up in Motherwell, there's some, I guess, heritage structures up in Motherwell that we're finding ourselves needing to deal with. The local residents would love us to rebuild it and refurbish it and so on, but we're really not in the board and as a whole is not really interested in being in the real estate business anymore. We do have some rental properties, like some houses that we rent out, and so there's some discussion on what the next step will be with these heritage buildings. They're on a flood overflow area, so it's really not something we can market. There is some legal tangles that we're looking through on that. But in the long run, I think it's safe to say that the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority is going to get out of the residential property and rental business altogether, and just stick to our prime mandate, which is conservation, flood control, and improvement of our environment. So there are some of the projects that we normally do over the summer, turtle releases and things like that are being done by staff. They're still doing their water monitoring, and they're still doing, tree planting and things like that. So, in spite of COVID, we're doing pretty good. So.
Okay. And that was with Upper Thames?
Yeah.
Any questions on that? Okay, Parks and Rec. Anything?
There hasn't been any changes through you, Madam Mayor. There hasn't been any changes since the last meeting. Hopefully, I'd like to maybe try and have one in September. It all depends if we have any updates on anything that's going on. So nothing yet.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to staff reports. Guess we've dealt with the bylaw amendments. Activity report, Ron.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a few items on here. The crossing guards, of course, we're getting back to school. We are into September now, even though the, I guess, official welcoming of the students has been pushed back an extra week. I believe that's supposed to start on the 14th, and the details from the school boards are still being worked out, and they seem to change fairly regularly, we'll put it that way. Regardless of when that happens, we need to train our crossing guards. So we'll be undertaking our annual training exercise tomorrow at noon. And first, I'd like to give a big shout out to Marilyn Carter and Jean Hickson. They are retiring from their existing positions there. So thank you very much to both those ladies. They were very much valued crossing guards, and I know the kids really like to see them, so we will miss them and thank them very much for their service. So tomorrow we will be having our annual safety training. We go through proper procedures. This year, of course, we'll have the added wrinkle of COVID to deal with. So we talk about personal safety. We talk about what to look for. We've got to have them fill out the daily sheets the same as every other employee on a daily basis. They will be submitting them with their time sheets. We will be asking them to wear that mask because most times I think it will be almost impossible to have the kids 6 feet away from them when they're crossing the street. And even if you could do that, I think we're just opening ourselves up to issues with parent concerns and things like that. So, you know, they don't have to wear the mask if they're just standing there waiting for kids to come. But as soon as the kids get close, you need to put the mask on. So we'll be reviewing all of that tomorrow and sort of checking on their equipment, make sure they have the proper personal protective equipment, that they've got their raincoats, their safety wear, and things like that. So the second item that's on the list there, the flooring issue. We have a bit of a head scratcher there. What's going on with the ceramic tile in the office? We've been in the office for 5 years, and I think it started about 1.5 years ago. All of a sudden, we started to notice some cracks appearing, and some of the tiles were lifting. So, we don't know exactly what's causing that, but Jeff Little did, thanks to Jeff, he did replace one section right close to Julie's office there, but there are probably 4 more areas that have now popped. There's one large area in front of the front counter in the foyer that hasn't cracked yet, but you can literally, if I jump up and down on the floor, you can actually see the floor go up and down, and so it's just a matter of time before that pops. We've had the contractor out trying to figure out what's going on there. Yeah, I have no idea what's causing that, but we did have another contractor say to us, well, there's no sort of underlay between the tile and the floor. Now, whether that's the cause, I'm not a flooring expert. I don't know. What I do know, though, is that it's starting to cause some issues, and there's a bit of a tripping hazard, and we can't keep patching here and there. So I think what I'm suggesting is that we look at possibly budgeting for some flooring to be done in the entire office, and I'm not proposing that we go back with or replace it with further ceramic. I think we can go with kind of an industrial linoleum that it's pretty amazing some of the products they have out there now, and with linoleum that'll sort of take out the rigidity in it, and it should be a lot better and last a lot longer. So that's just a bit of a heads up for council that's going to show up during our capital budget meeting that's upcoming. So, and the one I've got on the bottom of the sheet there, the County Middlesex Optimization Grant projects. The county is continuing with both of those streams. They actually did get grant money for one specifically to deal with the payroll system. What they're looking at is doing a centralized payroll system across the county and all the lower tier municipalities. So that one's in process, and Catherine sits on that working committee as well. And we did have a Zoom meeting with the consultant that's looking at all the other various programs. And they started out with a long laundry list of possible joint administration, you might say, on certain things. So what they did was basically throw everything into the mix, every possible service, and then they're trying to sort of whittle that down to a top 10, and then further drill down on those 10 as to what we can do and what's feasible to do at a county level. So that's continuing. And the one I didn't have on the sheet, and I thought I'd quickly talk about it, the mayor and I had talked about it earlier in the week, is the continuation of the Leukemidal state of emergency. So on March 17th, the mayor declared a formal state of emergency in conjunction with the county and the province. And that emergency order is continuing in place. And that's all the lower tiers are continuing with their emergency declarations. And that simply affords us the protection to continue to have the flexibility. And if we do need to call more people in with the expected, second wave, whenever, hopefully that never happens, but if and when it does happen, we are still in a state of emergency, and that gives us a lot more flexibility and protection as well. So that's kind of where we sit on that one. Everybody is continuing to do that. We are consistent with all the other lower tiers. So we are going to continue that in place for the foreseeable future anyway. So we continue to have emergency management meetings. We've got one scheduled for this Friday morning at 9 o'clock, I believe. So we continue to meet and hopefully, hopefully the end is in sight, but it's going to be a little while yet. So I think it was important to bring that up. So thank you, Madam Mayor, for reminding me to do that, because it's been, it's almost been 6 months now. So, and it might be another 6 to 12 months before we can formally lift it until such time as a vaccine is widely distributed. So, and I believe, Madam Mayor, that was my report.
I think the point with the continuation of the emergency orders is, it doesn't stop us from doing the business. And I think we've all acknowledged over the last 6 months how the business of Leukemidal has continued. And I mean, there are First Nations communities in Northern Ontario, across Canada, that have had states of emergency for years. And as Ron said, just having that just offers us, the ability, should something happen, to be able to maybe get some funds from the province, that sort of thing, but also to be able to be covered for certain decisions that are made. So as he said, all of the lower tiers are still in, and as the county is as well. So Deputy Mayor, did you have a comment on that?
Just on something else Ron was discussing, if that's all right.
Yep, sure, yeah.
Just on the tile, Ron, did you talk to the installer or the builder to talk to the manufacturer to see about potential warranty or coming in? And, that just seems like it was defective or something. So I'd be happy to have them join our community to discuss the product and what was installed on a next council meeting.
Yeah, we have had numerous conversations with them. They don't make that tile anymore, that color. So that was a problem. So you'll notice the replacement section that Jeff did is actually a different color, because we can't get that color anymore. But the product itself, yeah, there's no more warranty. We're out of warranty period. So that's a problem. But he was trying to help us, and I don't know what he really doesn't know what to do. He called in a couple of his people to try and have a look at it and try and figure out what's going on. At first we thought there was maybe some moisture coming up, but that doesn't seem to have been an issue. So yeah, it's like I said, it's a head scratcher. We don't know.
So the tile, would you be able to then get from them the manufacturer, not of the color, I don't care about the color, because we're replacing it all. And can you get the manufacturer warranty of the tile? Because I'm surprised that it's only got a 1 or 2 year warranty, or 3 year.
But the problem is it's not actually the tile. The tile is not defective. It's something happening underneath to lift the tile, right? So it's not actually the tile. There's nothing wrong with the tile.
So we're not gonna, so when you come to budget, it's much, yeah, okay, sorry, I thought it's much bigger than tile, because we won't repeat and expect something
exactly. Yeah, we don't want to replace it with another tile because we don't know exactly what's causing it.
But not even, you said about that flooring, you said laminate. We wouldn't want to replace it with anything without fixing below, I wouldn't think.
Well, yeah. Again, I need an expert to come in and have a look at it. So it's a budget item for sure.
Yeah,
there's a lot of square footage. That's the issue. So.
That's just very disappointing. Anyways, very disappointing from who built that, like for the developer. Very disappointing for the constituents.
I think that we're at 5 years for the building. Not that makes a difference, but it is 5 years, right?
Yes.
For the building.
And just think of all our houses and that. That's what I'm shocked about, Madam Mayor, is
I
think we're out there. It's amazing that just, can you imagine if everyone replaced that? It's crazy.
Well, anyways, I have my own personal thoughts about ceramic tiles and flooring, but anyways, that's another discussion. Okay, any other questions or comments on Ron's activity update report? Okay, moving on to Tina, did you have anything?
Sorry, through you, Madam Mayor. No, I don't have anything further to report tonight.
Okay, thank you. Finance, Catherine.
The only thing I have is, well, it's coming that time of year again when we're to think about our budget for 2021. So at this time, I'm asking council if they have any ideas that they would like to see included in the capital budget, because we want to have that meeting at some point in October, and we want to have time to be able to research, put a price tag to those things so that they can be discussed and considered during that process. Hopefully that will take place in October. So I will follow up this with an email to you to remind you and start thinking about that and set a time, a deadline to get that information, probably in the next few weeks, so that we can start putting the right department to get a price tag on some of those ideas that you might have to like to see in the community.
Any questions for Catherine? Okay, moving on. No planning. Can't believe it. Last two meetings been full of planning. No planning tonight. Public Works, Jeff.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. The first report I brought, bringing forth to council is one that comes forward every year. It's an annual report. We have the connecting link through town, and even though the MTO maintains the winter maintenance before town and after town, they don't actually maintain for winter maintenance through town. So having said that, it is our responsibility to do that winter maintenance. Over the last few years, or a number of years, they do offer that service to us through their contractor, which is at this point still IMOS, and they offer that service to us. So from last year, it has gone up 2%, which is basically based on the cost of the cost in the consumer index for Canada, and I'm just bringing it up here so we get the value of it. Just bear with me for a second. It is a 2 lump sum payments of $4,127. So plus HST. So it'll be just under $10,000. That includes the winter maintenance, includes the sand and salt and all winter maintenance, plus patrolling going through. I recommend doing this, and I think over the past, I think it's been the same reason. It's nice to have continuity going through town, so that when they're cleaning the snow off of Highway 4, Richmond Street, they don't have to pull up their plows and drive through town and then put their plows down. It gives safety to the motorists and gives continuity to Richmond Street. So the recommendation is to continue on with this contract, and I think in the past it's been well done. So.
Okay, any questions or comments on that? Oh, shoot. I don't know what I'm doing here. Okay, nothing. I just wondered on that. Oh, Councillor Reagan, did you have a question? Oh, okay. Just on that, with regards to the connecting link, have we, and maybe this is a budget discussion, but I thought about entertaining, and I know we've had informal discussions about extending the connecting link, and when that might be a good time to have a formal discussion on that.
Yeah, go ahead, Ron. We've actually had this discussion. I'll let Ron go ahead.
So through you, Madam Mayor, I think we're trying to get over the hurdle of the traffic light situation at Saintsbury and Main Street first. But we have let the MTO informally know that once this is done, we'd like to talk about extending the connecting link. So they are informally aware of our intention, but we want to get this situation with the traffic light sort of behind us first, but then we'll move to the extension of the connecting link.
All right. Okay, Jeff, did you have anything else?
Yeah, I have.
Oh,
Go ahead.
sorry, Councillor Masterakis.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, well, just one question through you, Mayor Kathy. Process. I think our procurement policy says, is it $10,000 that you can approve without coming to council? I just think it's great for the information, but is it 10,000? And when you bring these forward, we appreciate it and it's work, but is this something that comes to council? Is that the limit, 10,000 or?
Yeah.
Ron?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So through you to Councillor Masterakis. Yeah, I don't know what the number is, but because this is an agreement that needs to be signed between the municipality, that's really the reason why it's coming to council. So.
Okay, thank you.
And one more thing, if I may, Madam Mayor, just so everybody understands, the connecting link, the agreement is between the MTO and Leukemidal. And because the lower tiers get a more favorable reimbursement rate for any capital work that's done, we've chosen to maintain that agreement with the MTO, even though the county technically, the road counts warrant that to be assumed by the county as opposed to the lower tier. But again, it's more advantageous for all of us to maintain the current arrangement with the MTO and in the lower tiers. So we have the agreement with IMOS for the winter maintenance, and then we get that reimbursed from the county.
And Madam Mayor, if I just add a comment, that it's always nice on something like this so that everybody on council is aware of the trucks going up and down, especially on Main Street. If there's people doing work there, I just want to make sure council's aware of what's going on, even though it may be something that we could just repeat year to year. It's still nice to know that council knows exactly what's happening when it's going down. More for their, so they can talk about it if they're asked about what's going on. So.
Okay, did you have anything else, Jeff?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I have 4 items I wanted to bring forward. The first one is a follow-up to last council, to Deputy Mayor Manders brought forward a standing water issue in Ridge Crossing. I did meet with Jason Johnson, and we did discuss this issue. And he, in the process of talking about it, he did recognize that there is some standing water there, and that in the next little while, although I didn't get a time on it, it's going to be sooner than later, like in the fall or at the present moment, that actually is going to be built on. So there is going to be units where that water is actually sitting. So I said at that point, we're aware of the standing water for now. And if the units are built, then that standing water should obviously, that problem should go away. So we'll follow it up when the units are built and see what happens there. So just want to make sure. I'm not sure if there's a follow-up question from Deputy Manders or.
No, thanks for looking into it. No, thank you for the follow-up.
Madam Mayor, the second thing, I just wanted to give an update on the speed. There was Councillor Reagan brought up a request for report on speeding in some of the streets. We've started a program, and we're using Nicoline area as a test area to find out what's going on. So we've set up the speed sign over there. Just so everybody's aware, because I'm sure I've seen an email come through, the speed sign's on a stealth mode. So it's working. It's recording everything. It actually will flash a bright white light when a speeder does go by. A little light will flash, but it is working. And I did test it out this week. I went over and just to see if I could make sure the time was right on it. And it was an interesting test. But just if you get any questions, the speed line sign is working, and it's just on stealth mode, because if people see the sign flashing, they tend to slow down, and I don't want them doing that. I want the right figures when we bring forward what type of speeding and percentages is happening over there. So just kind of, that's an update. The third thing I have is the crosswalk at the arena. One of the lights is burned out, and we're having trouble with getting a circuit board for it. So we've taken it out of service. John put some signs up because it's dangerous if there's some lights flashing, but when one light's not flashing, it means one direction of traffic's not seeing the light. So we've actually, people can still cross there, but there's signs saying that the lights themselves are out of service. So I wished I had a date to be able to tell everybody on that. The company that actually sold or did that business is out of business, and we've traced the manufacturer back to Quebec, and we're trying to get a new circuit board for the light out of Quebec. So more to follow on that. I hate replacing the whole system. It's too expensive a system to replace the whole thing. But everything's reliant on one another, because one, it's solar, and then the other one, it sends signals to all the different lights. So when you press the button on the arena side, the north side or the other side of the road still flashes. So they all have to be aligned to work right. So hopefully we get that fixed and back up and running with minimal costs there. So, and the last item I wanted to bring up, I just wanted to bring something forward to council. And I know I don't want to set a precedence with this, but I did have a request if we could do, we have a drain going through this fall, and there's an opportunity to get it started in late October, 1st of November, by a contractor that might be already on site. They'd still have to bid and they'd still have to win the tender. But we're thinking that we might be able to get a really good price if we get this, if we're able to get this drain through in the fall. Having said that, drains fall on a certain date, and to get that date through, we would need to read a third reading of the bylaw on October the 27th. And I was, talked to Ron about this. I think it would help the township, good if we did that, if we could do a special meeting on October the 27th, just for the reading of that, the third reading of the bylaw. We wouldn't need, this wouldn't be open to the public. There wouldn't be any presentations. It would be a matter of just a reading and a passing of the third reading of the bylaw. It's more of a procedural thing. It has to be followed on a certain date. And what that does by doing that in October, if everything fell in place and we get a really good price, we can have the contractor that's already on site working. He'd be able to continue into November and finish off that drain. So even though I don't like to set the precedence about asking for a special meeting, I think it would be worth considering. I'd like council to consider that. And we could do it, I talked to Ron about it in the morning or at a time when everybody's convenient. Like I said, it would only take about 15 minutes.
Sure. That should be fine. When we get closer to that, I think that would make sense. Okay. Like you said, the contractor still has to bid on it, but if there's opportunity to save some costs, that would work, I think.
Okay.
Any questions for Jeff on anything he's reported? Councilor Matherakis.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Jeff, I just want to say I'm impressed with the holistic approach you take and the view to look at all the options and to look at any bottlenecks or pitfalls that may come about. Great work on what you're doing on behalf of the municipality. Thank you very much.
Thanks for that, Peter. That was awesome. I think we would all agree with that. So thanks for pointing that out. I was going to just say that's disappointing about the crosswalk, about what's happened. I mean, that crosswalk's not that old, and to have something like that go on it. And then of course, we can't help people going out of business, but hopefully we'll be able to find a solution to that. Okay, moving on, Parks and Rec, Paul.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No formal reports, just some quick updates. Obviously, ICE is the biggest one. So talking with the neighboring municipalities and then even with the City of London, it's nice to see that we're all kind of on the same page. So a lot of our minor hockey fellow partner arenas that we'll be dealing with probably in this health unit only league that we will be in. They're all pretty much putting in their ice mid to late September with a starting date for rentals of beginning of October. So we're still looking to be on time for that. So that's kind of where we're looking at that. And it's nice to see that we're all kind of on board in the same kind of idea. City of London's doing beginning of October for some rinks and then mid-October October for others. I know with the delay of school opening, it's kind of made people uneasy, and some people are maybe even rethinking their start date because they're kind of hoping to have 2 weeks of school before they started, just to kind of see how that goes. But I think we're still safe to stay on course of what we were planning. The second update is I've been working towards some environmental green initiatives that I've been trying to work with the ABCA. The first is there's some spots of land that municipality owns that really have no use at the moment. And they're an awkward shape and size, so they're not very good for like soccer fields or things like that. So one thought is that we could potentially work towards our own tree farm idea, kind of thing, like we grow our own trees for us to plant, to kind of work towards replanting Leukemidal, as it's one of the least treed municipalities in the area. So it would also be cost saving for us. There'd be initial investment. I'm sure there's green initiative grants out there that we could, I've been looking at actively. And I think it'd be great for us as a municipality, and there could even potential for revenue further on if you had kind of tree giveaway days or sale days. So I'm trying to work with the ABC at that. We got to look at the properties and still good to use for that. There may be some equipment investments that we'd have to do, like a tree spade or something like that. But I think it would be good for our community. The second one is there's these wastewater floating islands kind of thing. So they use to help filter, so like they can be used in lagoons, they can be used in stormwater management ponds, and they create a habitat for wildlife as well as they can help filter the water. Some of our wastewater management ponds are quite small, so you may not see that advantage, but on say some of the larger ones like in Campanelli, where we actually have quite a bit of wildlife, it could be a good idea. So I'm looking at that initiative as well. Obviously, hopefully there's going to be some green grants out there. Right now, a lot of the ones that would normally exist are holding off on this year, obviously, because of COVID-19. So those are two things I'm kind of looking at doing, kind of move towards some green initiatives in parks and recreation for Leukemidal. Other than that, we're still operating away and working hard at getting going.
Well, that's good. Well, those sound like some interesting initiatives. We'll certainly look forward to future reports on that. Any questions for Paul at this time? Okay, moving on. Economic development.
Just 3 quick updates. We had our backyard country concert last week. It was really well. The weather cooperated, and it was a great evening. So a lot of people appreciated having some ability to listen to some music again, although country. and no, it was a good night. So it was nice to have an event again and start to kind of rebuild on some of these things. Want a quick update on the website. I met with the Digital Academy today. They're their new providers. Some background: the County of Middlesex did an RFP for a provider to develop the websites for the lower tiers. Digital was the company that was approved, and so we're just kind of working on right now what that might look like. It's going to be very similar to other municipalities that have just gone through it. Middlesex Center, Thames Center have just gone through are changing their website, so we're all going to kind of try and look the same. So we just had that today to kind of start working on the themes and how it's going to work and what the content's going to look like, how we're going to do that. And still working on the community improvement plan. On the strategy, we're just kind of working on that, since the consultant some names of people that we might reach out to, and we're just going to start doing bi-weekly meetings coming up next week. So it's going to be fast and furious coming from now until January on that development.
Great, thanks for that, Lisa. Any comments, questions for Lisa at this time? Okay, And yes, the backyard concert was a great success, and is pleased to see that actually there was people from all over southwestern Ontario attend, from St. Catharines and Brantford and Woodstock, Hamilton. So it was great to see as many people out as there was. Okay, councillor comments. Any comments from council at this time? Deputy Mayor, Councillor Mastarakis, Councillor Regan. Dave.
Just Ron, is there any update on whether it be the permit or car wash or the reissuing of it or coming back to council if it needs to be, forgiven, or is there any update on that whole thing?
I've had discussions with Arnie. Arnie's coming back with some options for council to basically give direction as to what he wants done. Now, having said that, though, I did get a report that there was a few people wandering around the site. Looked like they were surveyors or contractors or whatever. So I did ask Arnie to follow up with the gentleman, because obviously if we don't want to pull the rug out from beneath him if he's actually doing something. So yeah, I will get a formal report for you for this September 15th.
On that. All right, no, thanks.
Okay, Councillor Mastarakis.
Three items. One, we had passed the code of conduct update back in June, and I supported at the time. One of the questions I was asked around recourse, or if a concern comes through from management to CAO and management or staff aren't happy with the outcome, what are the next steps? And at the time, I believe that it was the thought was it goes to the workplace, respective workplace policy. When I go back to the code of conduct policy, page 736A, it actually for staff to conduct themselves in a friendly, courteous, and professional manner with all co-workers and the public. So the public wouldn't fall under the respect and workplace policy, number one. So that wouldn't be a remedy for that situation. So if a complaint came through for the public about staff member not being respectful, where does it flow if they find they're not in agreement with the management of the municipality? Where does it go from there? The Respect and Workplace has a program for staff. So what happens there if a citizen of the community or a supplier to our municipality has issues with how they were treated through our municipality? Also, when I looked at the notes that we received from lawyer David Woodward from February 13th that were provided, he only looked at the code of conduct and made a comment stating that, not sure if you have a respect and workplace policy. If you don't, I'll help draft it. It's a bigger job to kind of look these together. They appear to be two separate documents that don't tie together one to the other. So for me, there's a gap, A, for the public if there's a complaint. Number two, where's the recourse if you can't use the respect and workplace policy? I think there needs to be another step in that policy under the code of conduct to ensure accountability and integrity in the process for our citizens and for our staff. So I would look for a motion to reopen the code of conduct to review that point. I'd like to can I make that motion to reopen it?
Yeah, yes. I just want to confirm that would be the process, or should it be a notice of motion? Should that be more of a notice of motion for next meeting, or how should that work procedurally?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. The typical way to do that is to provide notice of motion that would be addressed at the next meeting. But ultimately, it is up to the chair. So, Madam Mayor, you can entertain that. Okay. Councillor Mastarakis would like to make a motion. We need a seconder, and then obviously a majority of council to reopen that discussion. So that's up to you.
Okay. Okay, so if that's how you want to proceed, then I'm happy to entertain the motion. And we would just need a seconder for that motion, and then I could open it up for maybe some discussion, and then a vote on that. So seconder, Councillor Regan. Does anybody have any questions back to maybe Councillor Mastarakis or any clarification before I call the vote on that? And Tina, you're comfortable with the wording that Councillor Mastarakis for minutes?
Sure. I'm just wondering if council would prefer that both policies go back to Dave Woodward for input and opinion. Is that what we're asking?
I guess that would be a question for Councillor Mastarakis. Did you want the motion for both of them to go back?
If David Woodward could answer that question about it in that section around, where does the public go? What's the recourse after the CAO if they're not happy, or the staff if they're not happy with the answer? What's the recourse after that point? If you can go back just to Mr. Woodward, if he believes that should be part of the respective workplace policy, then we take that step and maybe even ask him that. But I think we just focus, if we can just look at that element of that document, the code of conduct, and see how he addresses that. And should it be in the code of conduct? That's my initial thought.
Councillor Regan, do you have a comment?
Sorry, my question is for Councillor Mastarakis, if I could. Councillor, is this just more of a question of clarification of that section, or to bring it back, are we going to be rediscussing that? I just want to be clear. So would it satisfy if we just got clarification on that section? I understand what you're saying. I'm just wondering if that should go first.
Yeah, whichever, it depends on Mr. Woodward. I would think how he'd have to word that. It's clear in the respect of workplace policy. It's not clear for that same point in the code of conduct. So there may be an additional paragraph or wording that has to be added.
Okay. All right. No, thank you. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? So we've got a motion on the floor to go, I guess, to reopen. I think that's what you wanted. That's what your wording was. Maybe, if you don't mind, Councillor Mastarakis, maybe just using the words that you wanted as the motion, so I can call it.
Sure. If we could reopen the code of conduct to review how matters could be better redressed when a complaint comes through public and through staff.
All right. So that's the motion on the floor. It's been seconded by Councillor Regan. All opposed to the motion? Okay, and then that is carried. So we'll just, I guess, staff will have a discussion with David or Mr. Woodward as to how those two are linked and report back.
Thank you. My next question, June 24th, there was going to be a health and safety session that staff were going to see if we would engage or get funding for training for staff. I think it was around June 24th. Are there any updates on what happened there in regards to the health and safety policies and the training?
If I may, Madam Mayor, through you, Julie in our office attended that one. I don't think it was June. I think it was probably July. I think she's had another meeting since then. So they've had 2 meetings so far, I believe. So we can, I can see if I can get an update from her to include in the next council package.
And also, would the health and safety policies cover the volunteer fire departments? They're employees of the municipality. How does that, do they do that separately from us?
Through
Yep.
you, Madam Mayor, if I can answer that one. The volunteer firefighters are actually not employees of the municipality. They're employee board. The fire area board is a separate entity from the municipality. So it's, and that's in accordance with the actual amalgamation order. So it specifies that the Leukemidal Fire Board shall remain as is, as prior to amalgamation, because it was made up of Lucan and Biddulph. And then the Biddulph Blanchard Fire Board remains a separate entity as well. So they both do have their own health and safety policies.
So if something happens under the Occupational Health and Safety Act for Lucan, Biddulph, or Granton fire departments, there's nothing that we have responsibility for as a council of Lucan or staff or management of Lucan?
Ron? Yep.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I would never say that. There's a lot of lawyers in the province. So, but my understanding is that they are a completely separate entity, and they do have their own health and safety groups that look after the developing of those policies. And I believe they also have a chiefs group at the county level that does assist in sort of the standardization of health and safety across the lower tiers.
So is there a way we can get confirmation on what council's responsibility, the township's responsibility is for that? Just to ensure we know we're doing our job and we're accountable and everything's checks and balances are all in place.
If I may, Madam Mayor, so the way to do that is we've got 2 members that sit on the Leukemidal Fire Area Board, and we have 2 members that sit on the Biddulph Blanchard Board. So that would be a question that could be raised and properly answered at their next meeting. Is that okay with Councillor Mastarakis?
But is that a legal question or is it a, you know?
I think your if I may, I think your concern is you want to make sure, you want to feel comfortable that we're doing what needs to be done to protect the municipality from any potential liability issues, correct?
Well, to ensure the firefighters are safe and all the protocols are in place to ensure we're doing whatever we need to do under the Occupational Health and Safety Act. Firefighting is high risk. When you're full-time paid, you get some compensation, but the risks, the chemicals you breathe in, the things you deal with, there's a lot of risk I see just for the firefighters. So for me, it's one ensure that's all in check, and what we have to do to ensure are the requirements upon us to ensure that those are in place.
Does that clarify things, Ron?
Yeah, I think we can get that answer. I think Alex, Councillor Westman has his hand up there, but yeah.
Councillor Westman, do you have a comment?
Yeah, their occupation, each department has their own safety committee within, and they have training officers that are meeting provincial standards for training and firefighter safety. There's accountability when they're on an emergency scene. There's an accountability officer who looks after tracking where every single firefighter is and their time on task and things like that. So there are a lot of mechanisms in place that are there strictly for firefighter safety and for everybody, like public safety too. So I can speak to that as a veteran myself, but I can also say as a member of the board that our officers are extremely diligent on making sure that everything is followed to the T. And I know they have been very active with their health and safety committees, making sure that the hazardous materials are understood and that they're following all the provincial and federal guidelines for safety on that. So, but we'll get a firm answer from the officers on your concerns as well. So.
Was that it?
One last question. We're looking at the update of the official plan. One thought I had, would it be beneficial as a group to get the stakeholders together, if we can do this not as a public, more as a training session, to do visioning about what Parks and Rec sees 5 to 10 years from now at the community, what Public Works sees, where, as we're starting to form what this community looks like, especially when we're going to the official plan, is trying to get a vision of what we have, what our citizens may have, and what this community may look like 5 to 10 years. Would there be any uptake in us getting together for kind of a strategic visioning session to see what does this look like? Then what is the official plan? How does that meet the requirements of the vision as we're updating the official plan? Has there been something like that, or would that be of interest to the group?
Ron.
If I may, Madam Mayor, through you, that's sort of the whole process. So the initial meeting we had a couple of Fridays ago with Stuart Finlay, the consultant, basically he outlined the process that we'll go through. So I would suggest that if anybody has any ideas or any whether those ideas come from senior staff or department managers or members of council, we're getting to the input stage. Okay, so if you have any suggestions or comments, please feel free to email them to Stuart. Stuart will compile all those, and there's a public process, and there's certainly before the public process, there's also many opportunities for council input here. So if you're asking for a special meeting, another, I guess, working group, certainly that's up to council. If that's collectively what council wants, we can do that. But I think you'll see as the process goes along, Councillor Mastarakis, that this process is drawn out enough to allow every segment an opportunity to provide input in the drafting of that document. So.
Okay, I'll thanks, because I knew I'll follow along with the process, and thank you very much, Ron. Appreciate it. That's everything. Thank you.
Yeah, I think to that point, Councillor Mastarakis, I think because there is the public process, and then there is opportunity for ideas and input to be put in. And I think as we get updated, and let's say we get to November, and as whether we talk formally at a council meeting or informally amongst ourselves, and we think maybe we're not our ideas aren't being heard, or maybe the process isn't working to get what we're wanting across, then I think there's opportunity then to expand that. And that might be a good opportunity. That might be a good time to say, okay, then let's get together or expand that, the stakeholders and look at maybe engaging them a little bit differently. So.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Regan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have 4 hopefully brief comments. 3 of them are driven by residents. One sort of just something that I wanted to say. And I think I might be asking for some help from Lisa and maybe Ron. So the first one has to do with, I think, with our sort of our neighborly culture. So I had a conversation with a long-term resident last week, and what they were wondering about was wondering why we don't have some sort of historical website that promotes our history. We've got a very long and very interesting history. And the thing is they were concerned a little bit that we have a lot of new residents coming into the community that may not know about our neighborly culture, may not know about our history. And I'm just thinking, in order to sort of build that community spirit. So he was just concerned a little bit about, why we're not promoting this more. So I'm just wondering, sort of the first one, and maybe Lisa can help with it, but I'm just wondering, would it be feasible to see if in conjunction with a communications officer, museum staff, and maybe incorporating this into a website? I thought maybe, as a teacher, I was thinking maybe we get senior students at our schools to maybe populate the website. I'm not sure if there's an appetite for that or if we can move forward. I think it's kind of important as our population grows, the demographic, of course, is a lot of younger kids. I don't want, I've moved here, a few years ago, and I took it upon myself to learn everything I possibly could, about the history, but I think is kind of important. So I'm just wondering if there's an appetite for that for our community or for council. So I think Lisa might have an answer for me or information.
So Lisa is now going to be our economic development officer, our communications officer, website designer, and local historian.
There we go. That's
Yes,
me.
thank
Yes.
you. I'm happy. I'll move on.
So go ahead, Kathy.
No, go ahead, and then maybe I'll say something.
Yeah, obviously, recent events and some of our initiatives have kind of maybe spurred this on. Like I said, once we kind of are able to kind of work on some of these initiatives and promote them, I think we can start to have some sort of develop a communication about our community and history. And I think definitely working along with the museum, they have all that on their website. Maybe it's something that a discussion with them about how maybe make it a little bit easier for people. But I think in next little bit we can really do a push, I think, of giving some background to people about our history and things we've done is important. So, right.
I'm wondering if that might be, and Councillor Reagan, I mean, we could invite you to the next CEDC meeting, and maybe that would be a good, that would be where that discussion could happen, because we do have members of the museum that sit on the CEDC, and we can talk about maybe expanding that. And I know that there is some grant money available through the county that maybe that might be good. So maybe you could join us at our next CEDC meeting for that.
I'd like that. Yes, please.
Yeah, and just I don't want to duplicate just having one more website where we can probably build on our new website coming up and having more information on our new website, and then also redirecting people to the museum to find out more information from them directly too.
Deputy Mayor, just one, did you have your hand up? Did I see your hand up, Dave?
Just a quick comment. Another maybe when I read Daniel's thing there on the history, I'm thinking the same thing. I'd sooner, there seems to be a lot of volunteers doing that, but maybe having something on our website that links better to the museum and what they're working on. Also, I was thinking, the donation we give them of 10, 15, 20,000, there's no strings attached. Maybe we should start saying, listen, here's your 20,000, but we have 40, 50 new people moving into our community, and we're going to give them all 2 free passes to the museum, good only for the year. So all new people that move in, that's kind of nice. They can take, if they want to take their kids, or they can pay for their kids. I don't know how their pricing works there, but tell, here's your donation, but we do want new residents to get free passes. Just a thought.
It's a good idea. Very good idea. Okay, what else do you have on your list, Councillor Reagan?
The other one too is probably maybe Lisa can help as well. There's been a number of concerns I've had about the signs in either end of town. And I'm just hearing concerns about the fact that they lack prominence and they're rather difficult to see. I'm just wondering if there's, moving forward, will we be doing anything else to make them a little more prominent and a little bit easier to see?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a lot of resident concerns
absolutely.
as well.
Yep, absolutely. Through you, Mayor. Yeah, so I've been in touch with Murals and Metal. I'm just kind of waiting for a message back from them about maybe darkening the Lucan part, and as well the shamrock issues. It's a lighter green, so wondering if somehow we can make that pop a little bit more. There will be, I think Jeff can probably help me with that. I know the guys have talked about replacing some of the solar lighting that was on the old signs, and of course our flowers, I'm sure, will be back next year with putting it around. Unfortunately, this time of year, there's no point of kind of building that, but hope for a fresh start in the spring about plantings and beautifying that area again.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it, Councillor Reagan?
No, actually, I just had two things that I need to talk about. I'm just wondering, again, from a constituent, I was just wondering if there's any appetite or if there's anything that the municipality is doing to look for partners or opportunities to help with affordable housing in our community. Kind of seeing it as something that we may have to look at down the road. I don't know if Ron has information on that, but I'm just wondering, I'd just like to bring it to council's attention to see if that's something that we may want to get involved with. Can we get involved with? What are the opportunities, and are there any partners in the community we can work on? Because I think it's important.
Before I pass it over to Ron, are you talking affordable housing or social housing?
Both. Let's just shoot for the stars. Yeah.
Social housing is a county initiative, or they look after that. So certainly we can get a report from the county on social housing, which would essentially be a report from the City of London, because they're the manager of our social housing funds. But to the affordable housing, that kind of actually probably ties, if I'm not mistaken, would tie into Councillor Masterakis's comments about the official plan, because we could probably in the official plan, say that affordable housing has to be a component in certain areas or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. Ron?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And to Councillor Regan's comments, I think we had a rough discussion last week about this, and I've got a few ideas that we could possibly pursue. This is not something that's going to be done in the next year even. These things take time, and maybe every good idea has to start somewhere, and maybe we can have a discussion with whoever is responsible at the county and the city, and just have a more or less a sit down meeting to sort of let us float my idea by, or our idea by them, and see what opportunities are out there. And to your point about official plan policies and things like that, there's opportunities to, shall we say, put incentives out there to build affordable housing or geared to income housing. That always has a stigma around it, so it's a very sensitive issue, and it's got to be done in the right manner. But if you think of the Lucan nonprofit, the Lucan Lions building there, that's a perfect example. That is certainly not a rundown building. It's a community asset, and it's been there for, I guess, pretty close to almost 30 years now. So it's a community asset if it's done in the right way. So maybe to start this process, it would be simply to have a meeting with the representatives from the city and the county, and just sit down and have a general discussion, see where it goes.
So I can share with you that the city's coming to the county likely in October with a report on how they invest in the county. So I can let you know that date, and you can watch that meeting back and learn lots.
Yep.
Councillor or Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, actually, when Daniel sent that out, the first thing I thought of actually has not been discussed, and that's actually maybe having a Zoom video or invited as a delegation would be CMHC, and that to me is with socialized housing. I think people get that mixed up with affordable housing, and I think we're all fortunate here. I mean, it's interesting because when you send that out, I don't know what your thoughts are. I know, as I've just learned more about it, home is where you live, and for some people that's a shelter, and for some people it's an apartment. And to me, when we talk about affordable housing for Lucan, that is, that it would be not geared to income. That's where the developer, as I brought up, at the 2 apartment buildings, that's optional living in Lucan. Optional living. There's no affordability, max profit. And I think where we need to do a better job is we're about to apply future residential land in Lucan to farmland to future residential. And I think we need to get our act together on an inclusion area in our zoning, inclusion area, because both those sites are not inclusion areas where we have the power in our zoning to say 30% of that needs to be affordable rentals. And we don't, right now, all we have is max rent in Lucan, and that's it. We don't have anything zoned properly, I don't believe, to force that hand. And I think we should, I was wondering, obviously I can't give staff direction and I don't know what the budget would be, but to Peter, when Peter was speaking there, what I think of is, do we need a housing study done for Lucan? And I don't know what that cost is. There's consultants that do it, and have that done. And maybe if council's in agreement that we need to learn more about affordability and for our official plan going forward, do we need inclusion areas for future sites? And that's, I think we really need to learn a lot about it. I think the socialized housing is a different thing. Affordable housing, there is no free money for the tenants. That's all about, obviously, the developer getting incentivized by a longer term rate. The problem with affordable housing, true affordable housing, is it can never change hands. It needs to be sent back to Habitat for Humanity or something like that. Very complicated. But I think we could do a real good thing here on affordable rentals in the future. But anyways, I don't, but I think we need a housing study done. Unless someone on this group's a professional knows what we need, I don't.
Yeah. There has to be a discussion now. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
So I guess to that point, I mean, I don't know how you would direct that to happen. Maybe bring it up at a future meeting to direct staff to look into something like that.
Well, I guess if it's all right with everybody, I guess I'm not just to simply get maybe, I guess, because it'd be official quotes. Yeah, maybe that's like, no, it's maybe there's no interest in it, but I think we need a housing. I think it'd be very beneficial to us to get a housing study done, I feel. Yeah. So sorry, Kat, so you're saying at the next meeting, I should ask to be on the agenda maybe? Yeah, exactly. I just not procedurally how to do it.
Yeah,
you're right.
How to do that. What does that look like? I don't know. Maybe Ron can speak to some of his peers, and other communities have done something where they've seen where that comes from or how that happens. And I'll get Ron to address that, and then I'll go to you, Peter.
Okay. Well, I was just going to say, just follow Ron's lead about the official plans. Stuart Finlater, maybe they've got some ideas, but sorry, Ron. Go ahead, Ron.
No, thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. I think we don't want to put the cart before the horse. So let's have the discussion with the city and the county officials first, because we don't know what we don't know. I've never been involved in geared to income rent or affordable rent or social housing, anything like that. So I don't know any of those details. So the first people I would like to talk to are the people who actually deal with it every day, so they can tell us what is, maybe they already know the need. Maybe there's no need for Leukemidal to spend money. Maybe they've done that study on a countywide basis already, and we don't have to do that. So I would suggest we start with meeting with those individuals first, and then proceed from there. Thank you.
Okay. Peter.
Yeah, one last comment. You may want to talk to the Lucan Nonprofit Association that runs the Kernard rent geared to income facility, because the board may have some ideas or thoughts to share or for what they're looking at the future or what's going on now. So
do we need some sort of motion to direct you guys to do something, or how does that work?
Through you, Madam Mayor, if I may, I don't think anything formal is needed at this point. I think we can make some, from staff's standpoint, we can make those inquiries and see what information we can gather, and then bring that back to council.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay. Right.
Okay. Daniel.
Oh, and just one more. So I just want to tell you why I think Leukemidal is a wonderful place to live. Something sort of happened in my neighborhood, and I'm just going to touch on one of the things that the mayor said in her opening comments about looking out for your neighbor. So one of the very young person in our neighborhood is fighting an illness, and we just found out about this the other day. And what was absolutely remarkable is all of the neighbors in this area and on my street and a couple of other streets over, just all banded together. And I'm kind of used to that living here, and I just, just to experience it. But people were doing things, everything from getting food for this family, just, helping out, cutting grass. Some people have actually started raising funds for research for this particular illness. One person went as far as had signs made up, and a number of have them on their lawns. And a lot of the times what we've heard about lately is that Leukem's getting really big and we're losing that neighborly culture. So I just wanted to tell you that story because I don't think we are at all, because I can't think of another place where you would just have people that really don't know the family, but just the outpouring of support, I thought was absolutely totally amazing. And I just wanted to share that. And I'm done. Thank you.
Well, while it's a very unfortunate situation that the family is going through, certainly you can see a lot of goodwill and positivity coming from that, and that's always a good thing. So thank you for sharing with that. Any other councillor comments? Okay, seeing none, we've just not got very many motions tonight.
Sorry, Kathy.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think Councillor Westman had his hand up. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't see that, Councillor Westman. Sorry.
Yeah, just a real quick thing. Wanted to do a little bit of bragging. The Granton Gardeners have been very diligent throughout the whole lockdown thing, and they've been donating a ton of food to the Elsa Cragen Area Food Bank. So they're well on track to exceeding what they did last year, which was almost 600 pounds of fresh produce. There's been a lot of public help. There's been people bringing stuff from their own gardens now, and it's just been really amazing to see. So at a time when families are feeling it the most, the community, to mirror Councillor Reagan's comments, our small community is coming together and doing an amazing thing. So that's my 2 cents.
Great. That is good. Thank you very much for sharing that, and certainly our congratulations and thanks to the Granton Gardeners. Okay, we've just actually have the confirming bylaw tonight, or the confirming motion. So resolved that if no one cares to speak to these bylaws on their first, second, and third reading, that they be considered to have been read a first time and passed, read a second time and passed, read a third time and passed, and that they be numbered 38-2020, execution of agreement IMOS winter maintenance agreement, and 39-2020, the confirming bylaw. Can I get a mover and seconder for that, please? Councillor Masterakis and Deputy Mayor Manders. All opposed? And that's carried. And resolved that the council meeting be adjourned at 8:34 p.m. Mover and seconder for that, Councillor Reagan and Deputy Mayor Manders. All opposed? And that's carried. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a great final last weekend of the summer, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.